Class is Memory of Jared Orchen, and today we will study chapter 52 in the book of Psalms. Page 147. Chapter 52 speaks about Doeg the Edomites. But who is Doeg the Edomites? What do we know about him?
He was good friends.
Of whom? That's the question.
With David. Act of hope.
Doeg the Edomites as a good friend, that's not clear.
He was an enemy.
Doeg the Edomites, that's a whole discussion if he was a Edomites or not, but for sure he was a great scholar. He was already in the time of King Saul. He was the head of the Beit Din in the time of King Saul, a very great scholar. But from day one, he had something against King David. We all know the story of David and Goliath. David killed Goliath. And Saul promised, anybody who will kill Goliath will get his daughter, the king's daughter. The king will give him his daughter as a wife. When David killed Goliath, Saul asked Doeg, what do you think about this boy? Can he be a king? Then he says, before you ask if he's right to be a king, so to speak, if halachically can be a king from his dynasty, ask if he can be Jewish, if he can marry a Jewish person. That's what he does. Why? Because David, who is David's ancestors?
Ruth.
David's great grandmother was Ruth. And Ruth was a Moabite. Ruth came from Moab and converted and became a part of the Jewish people. Then he tells them, a Moabite, it's written in the Torah that a Moabite cannot join the Jewish people. Well, then he says, before you asking if he can be a king, ask him if he can be Jewish, if he can marry a Jewish girl. What is the story? The story is true. It's written, Lo yavo Ammoni u'Moavi b'ka'al Hashem. Ammonite and a Moabite cannot join the congregation of God. When Boaz actually married Ruth, he went to the Beit Din to ask the question, can he marry Ruth? And the rabbis in the Beit Din told them that they have a tradition all the way to Moses that says, the language in the text is Ammoni and Moavi. They told them what we have a tradition, only a male Ammonite and a male Moabite cannot join the Jewish people. A woman a Moabite can join the Jewish people. Why nobody knew about that? Because the Jewish people never made a big thing about that. They wanted the boys to think that a Moabite cannot become a part of the Jewish people. They wanted the boys and the girls to marry only within the faith. That they kept it shady, not clear. But the rabbis know the truth, that a Moabite who converts can marry a Jewish person. Here is already 4 generations later, it's King David, and Doeg says, who says he can even marry a Jewish person? He coming from a Ruth the Moabite. And it became the discussion again. The same discussion that took place 4 generations ago. Why it was still like shady? Because Boaz, the night after the wedding, died. And because of this whole thing, and nobody ever made an issue about that, nobody ever really discussed it to depth, and nobody could put his finger to say clearly. Then here, 4 generations later, Doeg, who is a great scholar, and the head of the Beit Din, is questioning David's legitimacy altogether. Finally stood there Amsa, Ben Yesser, I think was his name, and he said, I have a tradition from the Beit Din of Samuel the prophet, that only an Ammonite male cannot marry into the Jewish people. Ammonite female could marry into the Jewish people. It's all explanation because why the Torah says the Ammonite and the Moabite cannot marry into Jewish people. Because if they met the Jews and they left Egypt, They didn't offer them even water, bread and water. Then the Torah says, because of their cruelty, they cannot join the Jewish people, because the children of Abraham are all about mercy and charity and giving. It's a nation that was so cruel, we don't want. Then the Talmud points out, who made the decision at that time not to give water, bread and water? The males. The females didn't have the right. They didn't have the say. Therefore, they are not in this ruling. They are not a part of this rule. That Amsa said, anybody who is going to disagree with the tradition of Samuel, I'll kill him. He took a sword and he says, I'll pierce him. No such thing as not accepting the rule, because Judaism stands on traditions. Doeg didn't want to hear from traditions. He was such a scholar, he said, whatever he says goes. That's Doeg the Edomites. That's the beginning of Doeg.
Was he a rabbi?
Great rabbi, great scholar. Doeg was a great rabbi. It's not written Reb Doeg, but he was a great rabbi. The next time we see Doeg is in the story that we're going to read, not this Shabbos, next Shabbos, we're going to read Parshat Zachor. Parshat Zachor is the story about the Amalekite, right? Why we read the story of the Amalekite before Purim? Because Amen was a descendant of Amalek. What were Amalekites? Amalek was a grandchild of Esau. And Amalek had a hater to Jews straight from the left Egypt. He came to attack them from nowhere for no reason. Just anti-Semitism, just hated of Jews for hating of Jews. Not because anybody took away from him something, not because they had a fight with a neighbor. Just goes to a different place where there is Jews who he never saw and he never met, and he's running after them. Then Amalekite was a nation. It started with a person and he created a nation. And this nation continued, and it was in the time of King Saul. God told King Saul, go and kill the Amalekites. There was a war with the Amalekites. And Samuel told the king, Saul, do not leave anybody, kill everyone. And this is the Haftorah we're going to read, not this Shabbos, next Shabbos. Okay, Saul killed, but he didn't kill everyone. He left the king, the guy who was in charge and responsible for all these bad things. He was left. Why? He felt, he wanted. God tells Samuel, I'm regretting that that I appointed Saul as a king. That's how bad it was. Because he doesn't listen to me. Do I need the animals? I need sacrifices. I need people who listen to me. Samuel is going to see Saul. Saul, I think, was in Gilgal at that time. And Saul meets him and he tells him, I have fulfilled the will of God. But Samuel tells him, what are the noise that I hear there? He says, oh, the people had mercy on the animals. They wanted to offer them as sacrifices. And Agag, who are the people who had mercy? You are the people. Since when the king is listening to the people? So the Medrash says, the Talmud says, that's what Doeg, the good Doeg, the great scholar, told them why to kill Agag. He says, by God, every person is so important, and even animals are so important. And he said, the Torah tells us not to kill the baby and the mother in the same day. We should kill so many animals together. It's not a good idea. He convinced them out of it. Saul was not a guy to go against God. It was Doeg's idea to go against. Doeg had Rachmones and the cruel people. Agag was a cruel person. He killed anything that was on his way. He was a king who was a horrible king. As when Samuel finally killed Agag, before he killed him, he says, as so many women lost their husbands because of you, so too will be with you. It means, that was the second story with Doeg. The third time we find Doeg, and there's a connection to this chapter, is about King David was running away from Saul. David became the son-in-law of Saul after he killed Goliath. But that he killed Goliath and everybody gave King David so much credit, that made Saul feel very uncomfortable. And I think something is wrong and it's blowing just cold air. I don't mind if you don't mind of the suffering. You want to change? Just bring it down. It's not here. It's not. Let him do it. He knows where to go. That's a different place. This is only for decoration purposes. Then Saul hated David, and he wanted to kill him, his own son-in-law. And he was running after him, and David was running away from him. It was Geferlach. At one point, David arrived to a city, it's called Nov. Nov was a place, the temple, before it made it to Jerusalem, the last part was Nov. And that was like a temple. I don't know, could be that even the Ark of the Covenant was not there, because the Ark of the Covenant was taken by the Philistines during the time of Prophet Samuel. His two sons, you remember, they went to war and they lost the Ark. It was all the Philistines took it. Then it was a temple, but it was a temple. The Ark doesn't look like the Ark of the Covenant was there. Let's put it this way. In any case, King Saul is David arrives to Nov, and in Nov was the high priest. Achimelech was his name. And Achimelech saw King David. David is the son-in-law of the king, right? He gave him the full honor and the full. That David asked him for food. David had a whole group of people. They were very hungry. They were almost dying, and he gave him the showbread from the temple. Then he asked him, "You have a sword for me?" He told them, "We have only one sword there, the sword of Goliath." He killed Goliath years before. The sword, or Eros or Ear, whatever it was. The sword made it to the temple somehow. Maybe they put it there out of, like, to remember the miracle. He said, "That's the only sword we have. That will give it to me." Then he asked for questions, and he had the breastplate. And he asked him questions, which David was asking by God where to run. And God didn't give him answers. Doeg was there. And Doeg went and reported to Saul that the high priest was helping his enemy, David. That's called Lashon Hara. Not only Lashon Hara, it's reporting, it's being a Musar, it's the worst. King Saul, who is the king at that time, called Achimelech. And he asked Achimelech, "What's going on here? You help my enemy." But Achimelech said, "I didn't know that David is your enemy. David is a son-in-law. I would never help somebody who's your enemy. I thought I'm helping the king." Saul didn't want to hear from it. Saul told his people, kill the high priest. They didn't want to do it. Then he told Doeg, "You kill him." Doeg killed them. It was a whole mess again. It was terrible. Then the Talmud says, on these two stories, the Talmud says something amazing. Anybody who is merciful to the cruel ends up to be cruel to the merciful. Agag, the Amalekite king, Solid Rachmonas on him, right? He ended up to kill the high priest. Terrible story. But basically, it's interesting that Saul didn't lose his kingdom over the story of Achimelech. He lost the kingdom over the story of Agag, because that's affect the whole Jewish people. That's Doeg. Now I gave you a little description of the personality of Reb Doeg. And the Talmud says, because Doeg speaks, from there we learn that anybody who speaks Lashon Hara does not get a share in the world to come from Doeg. Doeg died in half of his years. I don't know if he was killed or not, but he died young. When you say Doeg in the Jewish terminology, it's a no-no. It's bad news. If you want to give somebody a bad compliment, you tell them, "This is another Doeg." Oh, that's a real insult. Now we'll read from inside.
For the leader Maskil by David, when Doeg the Edomite came and informed Saul, telling him, David came to the house of Achimelech.
Tells them, David came to the house of Achimelech. King Saul knew from nothing. Doeg came and informed and reported on Achimelech.
Why do you, tyrant, boast of evil, when God's kindness is all day long?
Basically, he says, you going to tell Achimelech, to tell Saul that Achimelech was, that Achimelech fed King David? If it wouldn't be Achimelech, somebody else would help me. That's what he says. He says there is the kindness of God a whole day. In general, from there we learn Chesed Kel Kol Hayom. We learn that during the day is shining the Chesed of God. The kindness of God is during the day. The strictness of God is at night. That's why sick people, in the evening, the sickness gets harder, because the sickness, night is the time of Gvura. For this reason, it's written that we don't ask for mercy. There is a tradition, a Kabbalistic tradition. We don't pray for mercy from dark, from nightfall until midnight, because it's time of Gvura. It's not time of Chesed. After midnight, start to get closer to the day, we feel better. It's more and more Chesed, and the whole day it's Chesed. The sun represents Chesed. The shining sun represents Chesed. That's what he says. Chesed Kel Kol Hayom. When God's kindness is all day long, not all night long, all day long.
This Achimelech, who's he?
The high priest.
High priest.
Because Avimelech is like the.
There is Achimelech and there is Avimelech. Two separate people.
Okay.
And they lived in a different time of probably 1,000 years, maybe more. Sounds the same, yeah. Go ahead, number 4.
Your tongue devises trouble like a sharp razor that works deceit.
Because he's with his tongues, he went and he reported bad news to Saul.
You prefer evil to good, falsehood to speaking the truth, Selah. You love all destructive words, deceitful speech, so God will crush you for good, rake you and pull you from your tent, uproot you from the land of the living, Selah. The righteous, seeing it, will be awed and laugh at him. Here was a man who did not make God his refuge, but trusted in his great wealth, was encouraged by stirring trouble. But I, like a fresh olive tree in the house of God, trust in the kindness of God forever and ever. I will thank you forever for what you have done, asserting hope in your name, for you are good before your devoted ones.
Okay, let's
It's
stop a
interesting,
minute.
the whole thing, though, is really on one person. That's unique amongst the Psalms.
You're right.
That they're talking about Doeg?
Yeah. I mean, to have one single, I mean, it sometimes alludes
Almost, yeah. He says in number 10, but I, like a fresh olive tree in the house of God. The Medrash says the Jewish people compared to olive tree. Why? Where is the first time we find an olive tree?
Oh, isn't it, we talked about olives with Noah, doesn't he?
Oh, very good. What's the connection from Noah and olives?
The olive
Well,
branch.
as soon as-
The branch.
The branch, olive branch. The bird, the
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 dove.
dove.
The dove brought olive branch, and that was the sign
Dry
then
land.
there is of dry land. That's time to get out of the ark. The Medrash says the olive branch brought comfort to the world. Noah and his people were sitting in the ark, depressed. The world is destroyed. Is there a future? And this olive branch was the first sign that there is a future of comforting. That's why the olive branch became the symbol of peace, because it's not only peace, it brings hope, more than peace. Now, the Medrash puts it, this olive tree sacrificed itself, cut off the leaf from the tree. If not cutting off the leaf from the tree, maybe the tree would be a big tree. He was sacrificing himself for the sake of bringing comfort to the people. So too the Jewish people are sacrificing themselves for bringing comfort to the world. Means to say, the job of the Jewish people, they are, for the sake of God, are ready to sacrifice themselves. They're ready to die, just to bring the right message to the world. Now, there is even more. What's special about olive?
It tastes bitter, but it can make sweet fruit. Or
Tastes bitter, this is true. I didn't think about that. They're just a little in autumn and there's a little...
I read something that if you really put pressure on it, then the good comes out or
Oh.
something.
Ein azais moitzi shamnoi the aleph doesn't take out his oil until you squeeze him. Means, first of all, the Jew too, there is in every person there is some good. Sometimes you have to squeeze it out. Now there is two ways to squeeze. You can squeeze somebody, God forbid, with sauce. Or you can squeeze them with love. When you give somebody a big hug, you squeeze the best out of them. You squeeze it. And that's what the Rebbe decided to do, to squeeze the Jew, the oil out of the Jew in a good way, in a loving way, with a big squeezing hug better than with other things. Now, oil also represents the Jewish people. Why? First of all, oil represents Chokhmah, the inside part. Kabbalah is compared to oil. It's like this. Lechem, bread, is compared to the Talmud. Lechem and mayim, water and bread, is compared to the revealed Torah. I would say the Torah itself is water, the Talmud is bread. Then there is yain. Yain is what? What's yain? Wine. Wine. There is a statement in the Talmud. Nichnas yain, yatsa sod. The wine comes in, the secret comes out, right? That everybody knows. That the secret of the person, of the Torah, the secrets of the Torah are compared to wine. More than that, the gematria of the word yain, how much is yain? Yud is 10, and Yud is another 10, and Nun
It's 50.
50. How much is it together? 70. Sod, how much is Sod? Samech is what? If Nun is 50, and Samech is what? Nun Samach. Samach is right after
60.
Nun. That's 60, right? Vav, the letter Vav,
6.
66. Daled, 4. Together, 70. Nichnas yain, yatsa sod. The wine comes in, the sod, the secret comes out. It's the same numerical value. That this is considered the secret part of the Torah. But the ultimate secret, but wine, to take out wine from a grape, you have to squeeze the grape. But not so hard. You give it a squeeze and the wine comes out. Oil, this is a little squeeze will not get any oil out. You need to really have a good pressing machine to really squeeze the oil out of the aleph. It means to say, then the oil is the most secret parts of the Torah compared to the oil.
When you say S-O-D, sod?
Sod.
Like when you...
Samech
like
Vav
a-
Dalet,
like,
not S-O-D, Samech Vav
not like
Dalet.
the, what's it called, like the mystical or esoteric?
Yeah,
Like the
but
real
even
mystery?
but there is more than sod. There is the shemen of the Torah, the oil of the Torah. The oil is the essence of the Jew of the Torah. That's why the story of Hanukkah, the miracle of the oil, right? What really represents the miracle of the oil? There is, so to speak, a bottle of oil. They found one little bottle of krig of oil that was not contaminated, right? It was not became impure by anybody. It was the purest bottle of oil. Within every Jew, deep down, there is a pure, small, little bit of oil that nobody can defile it. Nobody can make it impure. And that's what he says. "V'ani kezayit ra'anan," I'm like a fresh olive tree in the house of God that can never be defiled. This little bit of oil can never be defiled. There is something also more about oil. That's why the Jewish people are compared to oil. On one end, you pour a little oil of something, the whole thing becomes oily. It doesn't stay in one place. But you mix oil with other liquids, what will happen?
Rises.
Stays in town. Can never be mixed. So to the Jewish people. As much as it we try to assimilate, there is always be those who remind us that we are Jewish. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes, God forbid, in not such a good way. But somebody will remind you, don't think you are one of us. We know who you are. that they saw it throughout the history in very sad situations, and even in a good way. People tell, oh, you're Jewish, I have a question for you. I mean, you cannot run away from your identity. You're like a little bit of oil. That's why King David compares himself and the Jewish people to Aleph. Another thing about the Aleph, you know, many trees you can combine with other trees, right? You can mix and match. Aleph tree doesn't take any mixing. It doesn't work out. You cannot mix them with anything else. Again, the same message. You cannot mix it. It is, and you stick with this, and you can, no matter what you try. I'm not in agriculture, I'm not a farmer, but that's what's written in Talmud, that's what I'm telling you.
Can't graft anything on it.
You cannot graft, that's the word. Thank you so much, graft. Beautiful. Now we're going to read chapter 53. You see, we made it to 53. Chapter 53 is a very interesting chapter. And it brought it to my attention, the interestingness of the chapter. Brought to my attention the Cohen, this Cohen. We have two Cohens on both sides, Cohen Milstein. And when we started to learn Psalms, we were in chapter 13, I think. And he told me, chapter 14. On page 31 is chapter 14. He told me, he read chapter 14, and he told me, I remember the same chapter further. And I didn't remember the same chapter further. Why is he remembering it? Because he already said this chapter, you know, they were custom. And when if you are, let's say, you're 50 years old, you say chapter 51, because you're on the 51 years. You're 50 are over, now you're 51. 52 years old, you say 50. If you're 51 years old, you say number 52. The sea said already chapter 53. That's why I knew that this is a chapter. I didn't make it yet. Soon I'll be done. Just a matter of time. There's a story about a young rabbi came to a committee. They wanted to hire him. They say, all's nice and fine, but you're too young. He says, don't worry, this problem gets better by every day. Then chapter 14 in the book of Psalms and chapter 53 is almost the same chapter. It's unbelievable. And what is he talking about? It's like not such a positive chapter altogether. Let's start to read chapter 53, and then we'll make some comparisons with chapter 14, and we'll see what is it talking, what's going on.
For the leader on the
Machalas.
Machalas.
What's a machle? What's a machalas? What's a machlas?
It's nice when you put a little tomato sauce on it.
What's a machlas? What's the word?
I
Is it
doubt
Is that like a machlokas? Is that like a
Close. Interesting that you mentioned machlokas and machlas. That's very interesting. What else could be machle? Oh yeah, mechule, machle. Machle. What's a machle? Anybody remembers in Yiddish what's a machle? The literal meaning is machlas is a name of an instrument, but machla could also mean a sickness. Machala means a sickness. And now that you say machlokes means a disagreement, a fight. A sickness and a machlokes makes sense, goes very well together. What's the machala? The sickness of the Jewish people. What are the Jews sick about? The Medrash tells us that King David prophesied here, chapter 53 and chapter 15, about the destructions of the temples. King David was, remember, keep in mind, he was before the building of the first temple. Solomon, his son, built the first temple. He's already prophesying for the future about how dear the kings, Nebuchadnezzar in the first temple and Titus in the second temple, will destroy the temple. Right? Then let's read a little bit with this in mind, and we'll see how is he speaking about it. Then we will understand then there is something that's interesting how said it is, but it's lost in the translation, and that makes the difference why we think the first chapter 14 refers to the first temple, chapter 53 refers to the second temple. But first let's read a little bit before we confuse you a lot. We'll confuse you a little bit.
I'm a skill by David. The fool said in his heart, there is no Hashem. They have become corrupt, done abominable wrong. There's none that does good.
It talks about the corrupted people who think that there is no God and they can do whatever they want. They can come and destroy the temple and nothing will happen. They came in the second temple and the first temple that's written, they came into the Holy of Holies. They did whatever they want. And God ignored them. A Jew walks into the Holy of Holies, dies. They walked in, they said there is no God. It's a joke.
God looked from heaven upon the children of man to see whether there is a man of insight who seeks out a God.
Is there anybody there who seeks us God? Will somebody stand up and stop this murder, this destroying of the temple? Nobody was there.
All of them are polluted, they are corrupted together. There is none that do good, not even one. Can the evildoers not discern who devours my people like eating bread, as they do not call upon God? They were stricken with fear, such a fear as had never been. For God scattered the bones of the besiegers; He shamed them, for God despises them. O may from Zion come Israel's rescue, when God returns His people's captivity. Yaakov will exalt, Israel rejoice.
Basically, it says that days will come when God will bring the Jews from their captivities, when Moshiach will come bring them back from exile. Now we'll go to chapter 14. It's 14 or 13? I forgot every
So
time.
just out of curiosity,
14. What?
But you'll show us how this would refer to the second temple.
Yes.
Isn't that from the Shemona Esrei Mincha Shabbos?
מייתן מציון ישועת ישראל,
No,
ושוב,
Yaakov.
יגל יעקב
Yaakov,
ישמח ישראל. Yeah. אברהם יגל, יצחק
Israel,
ירנן,
yeah.
יעקב ובניו, יואנוך ובואי. It's
Abraham
close.
freedom.
Yes.
When Jeremiah prophesies, when we do that 9th of Av, the Tisha B'Av, does that do anything with these chapters or not really?
It's the same concept, yeah.
Is it?
Yes. Now we'll go to chapter 14 in the book of Psalms, and we'll see that almost the same words here. Want to read? Chapter 14,
Oh,
we're
sorry.
going to 14, I'm sorry.
For the leader by David. The fool said in his heart, there is no God. They have become corrupt, their deeds abominable. There are none that do good. God looked from heaven upon the children of man to see, is there a man of insight who seeks out God? They have all perverted, become corrupt together. There is none that does good, not even one. Did they not know, all doers of evil, who consume my people as they consumed bread, who did not call unto God? There they were in great fear, because God is with the righteous generation. The counsel of the poor you would put to shame, but God is his refuge. Who would give that from Zion would come Israel's salvation, when God returns his people's captivity? Yaakov will exult, Israel will rejoice.
Okay. Look at the names of God that's being used in chapter 14 or in chapter 53. What names of God is using in the Hebrew side? In the English, it's all God, 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 God. But there is in Hebrew, there is different names of God. We just learned not long ago that the name of Hashem and the name of Elohim is two names, right? Hashem represents the revelation side of God, the miracles if you want. Elohim represents judgment, cover up. Elohim is begimatria teva.
Nature.
Teva means nature. What does this mean? God is covered up within nature. With Hashem, the name Yud Kei Vav Kei represents how God is breaking nature, is above nature. He reveals himself between the cracks of nature. What does this mean? Miracles comes from Hashem. Nature comes from Elohim. The day-to-day life is Elohim. Nature. Nature is also God. Who makes the sun rise and the sun set? It's also God. But you don't feel it. It's the routine. It's the system. It's working. Then from time to time, the splitting of the sea. So, whoa! That was something unusual. That's Hashem. That's a revelation of Hashem. From time to time we see it in the Antebi. The Rebbe said that was a revelation of Hashem. In the middle of Elohim was a shining light that came from above that says somebody's running the show. What the problem with nature? People start to think that there is no God. God hides himself, covers himself up within nature. You see it's happening by itself. I don't do it. It just happens. You can count on it. You plow in the winter, and this is growing, and you know what to expect. When something happens unexpectedly, that's above nature. That changes the rules of nature. That's Hashem. Then normally the system is Elohim. God doesn't want to reveal the name of Hashem, so to speak, to alter nature, because nature is his business. You understand? Somebody runs a business. There is an assembly line. He's the boss. He can stop the assembly line. Yeah, he can interrupt, but he doesn't want to. He built it for a purpose. He wants the assembly line to work. He wants the system to go. The factory should go in this direction. Everybody should be productive. But then sometimes the workers forget who is the boss. They said, "Oh, we are here for so many years. We ever saw a boss? You ever met them? You saw him? No, there's no boss. We can do whatever we want." They start to do whatever they want. One day the boss comes, he shuts down the whole machine, says, "What do you think? You think you are the bosses here?" That's what miracles are all about. Not necessarily because people forget, and because sometimes we are so verklempt with our tzores, we forget, we don't have trust in God. Look, the whole world is against us, and all odds are against us. So forget about the odds and forget about nature calculations. Everybody, according to calculation, the Jewish people were not supposed to be around. But there is above nature. Logically, you're right. According to all the studies, the Jewish people shouldn't be around, as Mark Twain said. It's above nature. We are from Hashem. We are not controlled by Elohim. We are controlled by above nature. We are not controlled by nature. Now, destroying the temples, no matter how you look of it, is means covered up of God. God covers himself up. Therefore, he allows the temples to be destroyed. If he would be revealing himself, the temples wouldn't be destroyed. The Jews wouldn't suffer. But there is still a difference between the first temple, not the destruction of the temples, the temples. What's the difference between the first temple and the second temple?
The ark,
Was the ark? What else?
menorah.
We had a menorah in the second temple too.
Sacrifices.
We had sacrifice in the second temple too.
Well, the second temple was larger and a little bit more grandiose,
Yes.
but you were
yes.
missing some other elements. I think you
For
were missing.
example,
I think you were missing the jar with the manna,
the jar of the manna, yeah. What else?
the staff of
The staff of Moses. 3. What else?
Tablet.
The tablets were in the ark. Yeah, obviously, if you didn't have ark, you didn't have the tablets. The cherubs. You're right. But what was really the difference in the first temple and the second temple?
The people.
And
The exposure, Hashem's exposure.
Oh, the revelation of God was different. What was in the first temple?
there were miracles everywhere.
Well, miracles, open miracles. You came into the second temple, they were lighting the menorah every night, filling up the same amount of oil in every candle. 7 candles, 7 benches. 6 burned out in the morning, the 7th burned until the next evening by itself. The same amount of oil. A miracle on a daily basis. You know, we have the Ner Tamid, the eternal light in the synagogue. It's coming from this candle that used to burn miraculously in the first temple. Only in the first temple. The fire on the altar was to burn in the first temple was an altar out, always in the temple was an altar outside in the backyard, in the yard, in the front yard where they offered the sacrifice. They didn't offer it inside the building. It was outside. You know, in Jerusalem can snow, can rain, it can be bad. The weather can be very bad. The fire over the altar never was put out. Never happened. In the first temple. And there were other miracles. That when a person used to come to the first temple, to visit the temple, he didn't need to believe in God. He saw God. He saw God. He walked out. He comes back to his shtetl in Ashkelon, ich weiß wo, in Eilat, and somebody does, oh God, oh God. I said, what do you mean God? You believe in God. I said, what do you believe? Maybe there is no God. I said, I don't have to believe in God. I was in the temple. I saw God. I saw miracles. That the first temple was Hashem revealed in the temple. God was revealed in the temple. That's why the first chapter, chapter 14, even that's mentioned the name Elohim a few times, but he says, and if you look in chapter 14, the second verse, Hashem mishamayim mishkif. You see Hashem, not Elohim, he says the name of Hashem. Then he goes in the bottom, then in number 4, he says again, Ochlu lechem Hashem lo karao. They don't call Hashem. Then he says in the next, in number 6, Ki Hashem achzeu, God is his refuge. Then in the last verse, Mi yitem mitzion Yeshuat Israel, who will give the redemption of Israel, Beshuv Hashem shvut amo. When Hashem will bring the people back to Israel. Now we'll go back to 54, and we'll see how it's written down.
I just want to ask one question.
One second, before you're asking any questions.
Oh, this
One
is an
second.
easy one.
I know. Page 149, chapter 53. It's all Elohim. I don't think there is one Hashem here. And Elohim, in number 3, again Elohim, twice. In number 5, again Elohim. In number 6, Elohim, twice. In number 7, Beshuv Elohim shvut amo. Elohim will bring the Jewish people back. It's all about Elohim, not Hashem. The name of Hashem is not even mentioned once. It's only Elohim. Because in the second temple it was nature. God was covered up. You walked into the temple. It's written that the beginning of the second temple, it was, the high priest was, what is his name? Shimon HaTzadik was the high priest in the beginning of the second temple. That as long as he was alive, the candle was burned. Used to burn miraculously. He died, and the candle died with him, because it wasn't because of him. It was the candle like this. The second temple did not have open miracles. It was covered up. That's why the first chapter laments the destruction of the second temple. The second, in that chapter 14, and chapter 53 laments the destruction of the second temple.
Where did they get, because in the on the side here, they say when Titus pierced the curtain. How do you get Titus out of that? And
Titus pierced the curtain, and it was blood coming out.
Titus destroyed the second temple.
He destroyed the
Right.
second temple. He walked in. It was to be a curtain between, in the second temple for sure, between the holy and the Holy of Holies was no wall. It was 2 curtains. And the Kohen Gadol used to go in between the 2 curtains. That's how he used to walk into the Holy of Holies. There were 2 curtains. While you open one, the second one is covered. Basically, it can never be a situation that the Holy of Holies will be uncovered. He pierced a knife, a sword inside this curtain, and blood came out. He said, you know what he said?
killed God.
Exactly.
What?
Killed God.
What I mean with this, that's how covered up the situation was. That's how unrevealed God was, that people could think such a stupid idea. Then that's why he's talking, this is about the second temple.
But we don't have an actual reference to the blood coming out.
No, we don't.
We just-
But he says, he says people are stupid and think that there is no God and they can do whatever they want. Maybe there is some references, that's why he's saying. No, he basically says that was the situation. He doesn't say that's to be a reference. He refers to this situation when Titus walked in and he thought that he killed this. What do you want to say?
Well, in the prayers it talks about how 3 times a year you would go pilgrimage to the temple.
Mm-hmm.
Is that only the first temple?
No, the second temple too.
Second temple? Because it
Sure.
seems like the second temple doesn't, shouldn't be there in a way.
Ich weiß, they built the second temple. Obviously, Hashem wanted to build the second temple, but the second temple didn't achieve its potential, let's put it this way. It was very hard to say that it was a good day during the time of the Second Temple. It was always wars and fights and so on.
There were only a few that lived more than a year or two.
Yeah, with the high priest. The high priest just reflects the situation, what was going on in Jerusalem. You can imagine what was going on there around the temple. In any case, that was the Second Temple. Then this is the first temple, this is the Second Temple. This is Hashem and this is Elohim. The sad part, when they write it in English, it's God. God here, that's all God. You don't see the differences. Now the last line of this verse starts number 7 in English. O may from Zion come, O may, right? In Hebrew, if you look in Hebrew, Mi'iten. There is in the Bible 2 Mi'itens. Mi'iten is like I wish. The word Mi'iten, oh may, I don't know if there is a translation. Oh may it be. It's like a wish, offering a wish. Mi'iten, you tell somebody, may you have a grandchildren. You can say in Hebrew, Mi'iten. Who should give? Like, I wish it will be true. That's like Alevai in Yiddish. It's Mi'iten. Alevai, by the way, is in Hebrew too. But by the way, that's okay. But there is twice in the Bible Mi'iten. Once Moses said Mi'iten, once God said Mi'iten. When Moses said Mi'iten, the Torah tells us in Parshat Be'alotcha, it's in Bamidbar, Moses at one point, the Jewish people complaining once and again and again and again and again and again. Moses complained to God. Moses turned to God and says, what do you want from me? If I did anything wrong, why are you giving me the Jewish people to lead? What do you want from my life? Why me? That's what Moses said. These people, they're killing me. They're torturing. He said, I gave birth to the Jewish people. Why me? Why it's my fault? God told him, you know what? No problem. Take 70 elders, chose from the Jewish people, and I will make them, I'll give some of your spirit to them. And by this, you will be easier on you. Well, the 70 people. Told them, take the people. How we know who is the right person to lead the Jewish, to be a leader? What are the criteria to become a leader of the Jewish people? What do you think?
Kindness.
How you know?
It was the slave people, like the officers, right? Egypt?
The capos in Egypt. They were in Egypt. For every group of Jews, the Egyptian appointed a Jew to control the Jews. Like the capos during the Holocaust. But these guys in Egypt used to be beaten up for the Jewish people, used to protect always the Jews. If the Jews didn't deliver the amount of bricks, and you asked, who didn't bring it? He said, I don't know. That he got beaten up for it. That God said, these people who were ready to be beaten up for another Jew in Egypt, these are the criteria. What inaugurates you to be a leader? When you're ready to be beaten up for another Jew, to take the heat for another Jew. That's what makes you a leader. Okay? But how many leaders you need? 70. Right? And together with Moses, 71. That's a Beit Din is 70. Beautiful. How many tribes are in the Jewish people? 12. How you divide 70 to 12?
6.
6. How much will be 6 if you do 6 times 12?
72.
72. That means you'll need to have one from 2 tribes. You have to take only 5, not 6. 10 tribes will donate 6 people, and from 2 tribes you take only 5. Can you imagine? Moses has to decide which tribe will give only 5. They would still argue today about that. Moses still looked at him and said, you want me to do it? That's suicidal. Why not? No, you hate us. It's already in Egypt. You hate us. That's why he gave us less meat. There'll be no end to it. Moses called from every tribe to 6 guys. And he made a raffle. And he wrote 72 papers. And on 70 papers he wrote Nasi, I think. And 2 papers were empty. He says everybody should take his paper. Written Nasi, he's a Nasi. Or Zoken, or older, I don't remember exactly what is written. And the 2 were empty. I know that's not them. Fine, the 2 were not. Were Eldad and Medad. Interesting enough, the only one that we know their names from the 72 are the two that were not elected. Is it strange? Fine.
And we also, we know with the.
1 second. The two were not elected. They stayed in the camp. Everybody went to the tent of the meeting, to the sanctuary, and there God will give them the prophecy. These two stayed in the camp because they were outsiders, thrown out. And they, out of nowhere, God gave them spirit also. They started to prophesy. What they prophesied, they said, Moses is going to die in the desert, and Joshua is going to lead the Jewish people. That was the beginning of the 4 years, not by the end of the 4 years, right in the beginning, the first year. Joshua heard that, he went crazy. He went to Moses, he told them, Kloem. Kloem could mean arrest them, get rid of them, take care of them. They are prophesying. Somebody ran to, or Gershon, the son of Moses, came to run from the camp. He says, Elder, the Maida, they are prophesying in the camp. It's not written in the text what they prophesied, but the Talmud tells us because what he got so worked up. So the prophesying, what was it? That Moshe Rabbeinu, that Joshua told them, punish them. Then Moses told them, Amikane atoli, are you jealous for my honor that somebody also be a prophet? Me tain, I wish the whole nation would be prophets. It'll be easier than me. He didn't. That's my addition. He said, Me tain kol am Hashem nevim. Who will give the whole nation should be prophet? That's what Moses said. I don't mind that they are prophets. I'm not losing anything. Don't worry for my job, for my honor. I'm okay. May you all be prophet. That's what Moses said. The me tain of Moses was not fulfilled. Not the whole nation are prophets. Only these two. Then there is a me-tain that God said. God said it. It's written in the book of Deuteronomy, but it's about Mount Sinai. The Jewish people at Mount Sinai was a big event. When they heard the words of God, I am your God, they freaked out. Not only freaked out, they died according to the Talmud. And they heard the Ten Commandments, then they came to Moshe and they told Moshe, from now on we believe you. It's okay. We know that you're speaking to God. We are not looking for more experiences like this. Keep it for yourself. We give you the covered and the honor. Keep it for you. Moses was disappointed. You have an opportunity. What they told them? They told them, you speak to God and you'll tell us what God says. That's okay. We believe you. Try. Good enough. Moses was very disappointed. He was disappointed because he said they should say, we want to hear God. We don't want to hear you. And they said, no, good enough, fine. Then God told Moses, don't worry, me and I wish. They said to Moses, we wish that we will do everything that Hashem wants, but you tell us and you do everything you say. That Moses said that God says, me and I wish this heart that they have now, they should have for always, forever and ever, they should always be committed to me as much as they committed 5 minutes after Mount Sinai. This me ten was also not fulfilled. That's why the Medrash says, this me ten speaks about who will give and Moshiach will come and God will bring back the captivity of the people back to the land of Israel. These two me-tens, there's written one me-ten here, one in chapter 14, reflects on these two me-tens. Basically, these two wishes of Moses and of God will be fulfilled, when Moshiach will come. It's written that God will pour the Spirit of God. Everybody will be like a prophet, and Moshiach will come. That's a tragedy. Everybody will give speeches. Everybody's a prophet. Somebody said in Israel, everybody's a prophet. Everybody's speaking like, he said they learned only the Tanakh, they never learned the Talmud. Everybody's a prophet. Everybody knows what's the right thing to do. Every taxi driver has a prophecy to give you. Everyone comes and gives you a lecture. He doesn't want to hear. His ears are closed. He's just talking. Then these two me-tens, and the me-ten that the Jewish people will fulfill the will of God will also happen when Moshiach comes. That's why we say, the me-ten mitzion Yeshuot Israel, or may from Zion come Israel rescue. When God returns his people's captivity, Yaakov will exalt, Israel will rejoice, when Moshiach will come. And that's the two me-tens, how the Talmud puts it.